Hello and welcome to Module 1, Lecture 4. So today's lecture is on the impact of technology and social media on adolescent well-being. I am Amandeep Saikia, a clinical psychologist, and I am working as a student counselor at IIT Kanpur. So now let us look at what we'll be covering in today's session. So we'll start with an introduction, followed by understanding the prevalence of technology use among adolescents. We'll try to see the impacts of digital use and social media, both positive and negative. Some of the negative impacts will be exploring, like digital fatigue and digital addiction. We'll also explore theoretical perspectives on digital media and mental health. We'll try to understand what is cyberbullying and online harassment and what we can do about it. We'll look at some of the management techniques of digital addiction and fatigue, and also the role of family and institutions. So in today's interconnected society, adolescents are deeply embedded into the digital landscape. So from the time they wake up to the time they sleep, it looks like the screens have become omnipresent. So they use it for social media, entertainment, and many more other things. So as adolescents are exploring this digital realm, they have become very much attuned to that, very much comfortable with that. And it shows that they, over the years that they have grown up, they are being exposed to digital technologies so much. So this has led to the coining of the term that we call as the digital natives. So this term was coined by Mark Prensky in 2001. So digital natives can be defined by those individuals who have been brought up during the digital technology rise. So they are so much comfortable because they have been brought up by that, so much comfortable that it has started affecting their cognitive processes, the way they think, the way they connect to the world. Surely it has many positive effects, but it also have some challenges. It has started to affect their day-to-day life, social connections, etc. Now let us look at some of the prevalence of this. So it is seen that globally, around 95% of adolescents own a phone, a smartphone. In India, it is seen, according to the annual status of education report, that around 90% of adolescents, they have access to mobile phones. It is different for girls and boys, of course. Boys, the percentage is little more, but the use is so high. Researchers have also shown that global average of screen time is around 7 hours or more for adolescents, and this is beyond their study time. There are different platforms that are used by adolescents, and researchers show that the most common apps that are used are YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and this has affected their mental health to a certain point. Over the years, mostly after COVID, there is also increase in this, and many such AI platforms have also been developed, like ChatGPT, Character AI. So they surely have a positive effect, but it is seen that they have shaped the minds of the adolescents to a point that they're unable to critically think, nor can they have social connections. As I said that they are both positive and negative effects of digital technologies, let us start by understanding the positive ones. The first is community and social support. So social media, digital technologies give an exposure to individuals where they can connect to people and connect to their families. So that has a very positive effect because it shows that this improves the sense of connectedness, feeling that your family is with you even if you are far away. Also, it is seen that it provides a safe platform for different communities. So when I'm talking about communities, it can be for LGBTQI plus community, where they feel safe to share about themselves in the platform, in different social media platforms, and feel accepted. The second is identity and self-expression. So adolescents find a space in the social media platforms to express themselves. So indirectly, this puts up, this increases the sense of self-esteem, self-worth, increases the confidence of adolescents. The third is mental health resources. So it is seen that the online platforms have a lot of mental health resources. So we know that there is so much of mental health stigma in our society, be it in India or abroad, though it is changing over time. So many of the individuals, mostly adolescents, they are not comfortable to go and share about what they are suffering to someone around them. At this point, the digital technologies play a big positive role. Because there are so many resources, adolescents can reach out to people, to communities where they find a safe place, where they can also talk to professionals who can provide telepsychotherapy services. The last is learning and educational content. So of course, social media provides a lot of educational content, easy access to resources which may not be easily available around, especially for people from poor background or for vulnerable communities where do not have access to such information. So social media, digital technologies, internet is providing mass information in short time. Now let us understand some of the mental and physical and emotional effects of digital technologies. Here I'll be discussing some of the negative impact. So I'll be focusing on two things. One is the digital fatigue and digital addiction. So when we are talking about digital fatigue, it's very clear usage of digital technology and leading to fatigue. So if you have to define the term digital fatigue, it can mean, feeling a sense of burnout due to excessive use of screen time without taking breaks in between. So this is a very common phenomenon across adolescents, that they'll be, as I said, in the prevalence part where there is average of 7 hours or more of screen time. So because of the constant use and no breaks, it leads to digital fatigue. This may lead to certain symptoms like emotional, physical and cognitive. Now let us look at some of the causes of digital fatigue. What are the things that may lead to that? So first is, of course, as I shared, excessive screen time. So adolescents are spending so many hours without break, which leads to the violation of the 20-20-20 rule. So the 20-20-20 rule says that after you're using digital technology for around 20 minutes, you should be taking a 20-second break where you'll be looking at something that is 20 feet away. So while adolescents are engaging in technology, they are not aware of how much hours they're spending. So they'll be just spending at a stretch hours and hours, which leads to fatigue. The next is cognitive overload. So while adolescents are engaging in digital technology, they are keeping so many tabs open, so much of like information switching from one apps to the other. And because of this, there is a constant burst of information, notifications, which leads to making them being alert all the time. As a result, leading to digital fatigue. The third is poor ergonomics and visual strain. Because adolescents are exposed to the screen for long time, and we know that screens emit blue light. So because of this exposure to the blue light, it affects the adolescent's circadian rhythm, indirectly affecting the sleep pattern. When we are talking about poor ergonomics, because individual is being on the screen for a long time, getting distracted, they are having difficulty being aware of their posture. Either they will be sitting with their hunchback or lying on the bed with the phone on top of their head. This leads to body strain, physical health issues. They may have back pain, neck pain, headaches, etc. Then there is lack of boundaries. So when we are talking about lack of boundaries, adolescents may have a difficulty to distinguish between their work and personal life. They're spending hours and hours on the phone where there are so many notifications related to their academics, their work, while they are resting. So this constant alert may lead to digital fatigue. Then there is social and emotional stressors. So as I said in the last slide, that the prevalence shows that 90% or more have an access or they own a phone. So all are in a social media platform and they'll be posting something or the other. So in adolescent, they will have the fear of missing out, in short the FOMO, and this will lead to a constant checking behavior, that okay, is there a new post, or if they have posted something, is there a new like, comment or something. And because of this pushes an adolescent to engage in compulsive behavior, leading to addiction. The last is isolation and reduce, pleasurable activities. Now let us look at digital addiction. So when we are talking about digital addiction, let us understand that it is a type of behavioral addiction where the person has a tendency to overuse devices, a compulsive use of devices, where it is affected to a point where their day-to-day life is getting hampered, their daily life, daily functioning, social connections. So let us understand few of the characteristics of digital addiction. So someone with digital addiction, the first effect is that, the first key characteristics is that they lose control. They lose control of their lives, lose control of their mind. There is this compulsive checking and they are unable to stop. The second is neglect of responsibilities. So as I said, that they neglect their day-to-day life responsibilities. The third is withdrawal symptoms. So someone who is getting addicted to digital media, just like any other substance addiction where somebody is addicted to substances like alcohol and other drugs. Behavioral addiction is something similar, where if an adolescent is not having the access to digital media for some reason, they will show withdrawal symptoms. So while we are talking about withdrawal symptoms, it can be cognitive, where they are feeling very irritated, they are having racing thoughts. There can be physical symptoms where they are experiencing anxiety, trembling, irritation in their body, and then there can be emotional as well. Followed by withdrawal symptoms, there is also a tolerance of this. So adolescents have an exposure to social media where they are getting satisfied by what they are watching. But over time, the tolerance level increases. And because of the increase in the tolerance, they need more of such content to feel the same satisfaction as they did in the past. And of course, it affects the health, the sleep, the emotions and other things. So now let us see what are the different forms of digital addiction. So there are different forms like smartphone addiction, where the person is feeling addicted to the phone. They need to constantly check different apps or notifications. Then there is internet addiction, where they have to browse lots of information in the internet. There is gaming addiction, where an adolescent will be spending hours and hours with phone or their computer playing games, not knowing that it is affecting their daily life. Then there is also binging of such information, where they are scrolling lot of reels and videos. There is another form of addiction, that is the social media addiction, where the adolescent may have repeatedly wanting to check if their post is being liked, commented, so they will switch from one app to the other. So this addiction has a psychological basis. So this is connected to the dopamine reward system. So when an adolescent is posting a content, they're getting likes and comments. So these likes and comments in a way give them small rewards or give them a sense of boost, positive emotions. So because they're constantly getting that, the compulsive behavior is increasing, leading to such addictions, fatigue, etc. Also over the years, it is seen that all the apps, the platforms are designed in a way to boost this dopamine reward system. So it shows that we have to be very careful about what we are using and how we are using it. Repeated use of such devices, such exposure to technologies can lead to many negative consequences, like leading to mental health conditions like anxiety, depression, can lead to low self-esteem, self-worth. It can have physical health issues, like I said earlier about poor ergonomics, back pain, headache and different pains in the body. It can also lead to academic or work decline, because they are engaging so many hours in a particular platform, they are ignoring their academics, leading to decline in grades. Now let us look at some of the theories that help us understand this a little better. So the first theory is the social comparison theory, which was given by Festinger. So the social comparison theory says that humans have an innate tendency to compare themselves, to compare their abilities, their opinions with people around them. So when it is not available, they rely on social media for such comparisons. When we are talking about comparison, there are two types of comparison according to this theory. So, the first is upward comparison, where adolescents have a tendency to compare themselves to someone whom they consider as above them. So, it may help to a point, because suppose they are comparing themselves with some like person in the social media, they may feel the sense of boost, they may get motivated to build their confidence. But over time what happens is that it leads to low self esteem, because the online platform provides a curated form of content. They may provide an idealized version of a person, they will just show the positives, and especially when it feels like it is not achievable, adolescents' self-worth, self-esteem, confidence gets affected in a negative way. The next comparison, as I said, is downward comparison. So, it is a type of comparison where adolescents are comparing themselves with someone who is below them or they consider as worse off than them. So, what it does is that it tends to give them a false sense of this confidence, which initially may boost, but over time puts a negative effect on that. So, if we apply this theory in this social media, if we try to understand it a little better. So, social media platforms promote this upward comparison. So, they will put, as I said, curated forms of idealized version. So, in a way it is reducing the self confidence of people over time. And adolescents, because they are still developing, their brain is still developing, they are unable to see that difference. They get easily influenced by that. The next theory is self-determination theory, which was given by Deci and Ryan. So, this theory says that humans have three core psychological needs. The first is autonomy, where the person feels that they are in charge of their lives. The second is competence, where they feel capable. And the third is relatedness, which talks about social connectedness. So, social media tends to uplift this relatedness part, where they feel that they are feeling very connected, but again it puts a negative effect, because it is just a sense of superficial connectedness and deeper connections aren't formed, as I said. So, even if the relatedness part is getting uplifted, the autonomy part, where people are having the sense of losing control, it's reducing their self-esteem, self-concept. And also it is threatening the competence part, because even if they were feeling confident, over time because of the exposure, they start to have this lack of confidence, because they perceive that they are failing in something. The sense of failure is developing. There is this other theory that we call as operant conditioning, which was given by Skinner. So, operant conditioning says that our behaviors are shaped by reinforcement and punishment. So, if a behavior is being reinforced, given a positive reinforcement, the behavior will increase, versus in punishment we look at reducing a particular behavior. So, what social media does is that, because the adolescents have posted a content, for example, they are getting the likes and comments, which is giving them a sense of positive reinforcement, indirectly increasing such compulsive behaviors. There is also this concept of variable ratio reward, which tells that the individual is not aware when they will receive a reward, but ultimately they will receive it. So, this reward system is similar to what happens in social media, because adolescents are not aware that they will be getting a reward immediately or when they will be getting, they are repeatedly checking. The compulsive behavior is increasing therefore. The fourth theory is cognitive behavior model, which was given by Beck, and cognitive behavior model says that our thoughts and behaviors are connected. So, negative thoughts may lead to behaviors, and especially if we look at this in social media, as I said, that when they are getting, adolescents are getting access to such curated content, they are looking at idealized versions. There is this sense of negative thought process that develops in the adolescent. So, this negative thought process that develops leads to rumination, where they feel that they are not good enough, or they're worse off than other people. So because of the thought processes, such behaviors, negative behaviors may lead to negative coping methods. So now if we look at the summary of different theories, we can see that the social comparison theory says that it has an effect on mental health, it affects low self-esteem, leads to low self-esteem, body dissatisfaction, anxiety. The self-determination theory says that unmet psychological needs can be developed, which is a negative effect. Then there is emotional disconnection that is happening. Then operant conditioning says that habitual or compulsive use is happening because of the reward system, the reinforcement, and also development of digital addiction. Cognitive behavioral theory says the development of negative thought loops because of constant, idealized versions, affecting a negative thought process in adolescents, which can lead to long-term mental health issues like depression and anxiety. Now I want to discuss a case with all of you, and I felt it is important that we look at this case and try to understand all the different theories that we just discussed. So while I'm reading this theory, I want you to maybe make a point of the different things that we had discussed and highlight it. So Meher is a 16-year-old girl who loves learning and is usually quite active in school and extracurriculars. However, over the last year, she started spending a lot of time on social media platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok. It started with a few minutes of scrolling after homework, but gradually she began spending 6 to 8 hours daily online. She constantly compares herself to influencers, their clothes, bodies, lifestyle, and feels like she is not good enough. Even though she is aware that much of it is filtered and curated, she cannot stop looking. She tries to keep up by posting more often and checking who viewed or liked her stories. Over time, Meher began feeling tired all the time, found it hard to concentrate in class, and started skipping meals or sleep just to stay online. She often complained of body aches, mood swings, and feeling mentally drained. Even though she says she is resting, she is always multitasking between apps, videos, and chats. So this case of Meher shows that digital fatigue or digital addiction doesn't develop suddenly. So as we see for Meher, maybe it developed slowly over time, where she wasn't aware that it is happening. Initially, which may feel that there is just, as a leisure time scrolling internet, led to compulsive use of such devices. We also saw how it affected Meher in different ways, her mind, her body, where she started comparing herself, her body, her thought processes to these idealized versions. Over time, it also showed that she may have experienced some bit of anxiety and depressive symptoms. And this case also tells us that it is so important that we all are, especially adolescents, are aware of these things. Now let us look at two most important things that most of the adolescents are mainly facing in today's world: online harassment and cyberbullying. Online harassment can be understood as any unwelcome or harmful behavior that is conducted in digital platforms. So it can happen to people of all ages and may be sexual, racial, political, or personal in nature. So let us look at some of the forms of online harassment. So there is cyber stalking, where there is persistent unwanted contact. Then there is sending sexually explicit or inappropriate content. There is hate speech or targeted abuse based on gender, caste, religion, or sexuality. Then there is doxing, where someone is publishing someone's private information online without consent. And then there is trolling with offensive or inflammatory comments. So now let us look at some of the ways in which we can avoid or manage or not experience online harassment. The first is setting privacy settings. So adolescents who are in a digital platform, in some form of apps, they can set their digital these settings, change the settings. Some of them set it in public mode, where unknown people may have access to their private information. So if you are experiencing some kind of online harassment, maybe you can set your profile to private. The second is thinking before you share. So when you are sharing any content online, always ask yourself, why am I sharing this and how this will affect me or other people? What role does it play? The third is recognizing warning signs. So being aware of if your profile is getting any kind of such comments, or in online mode if anybody is making such negative remarks, so being aware of that. So as you are being aware of that, it is very much important that you do not engage. So suppose you are uploading a post which is getting some kind of online, somebody is messaging you even or commenting something negatively. So what you can do is just ignore that or maybe block those accounts. The next is keeping evidence, which is very important. So it's very important that you capture what was sent to you. Maybe you can take a photo, a screenshot, or copy the messages that were sent to you. This is very much important in case you are planning to report these. The next is where you are reporting or seeking help, reaching out to somebody, a family member or somebody who may be able to help you. So it's very important that you report such cases so that these things do not happen to you again or other people around you. And the last is staying informed. So it's important that you are being informed of your, what you can do about such things, getting educated about, what you can do in such scenarios, because there are so many laws that are there that may help you. The next is cyberbullying. So let's understand what it is. So cyberbullying is a specific form of online harassment that usually occurs among children or adolescents, often within peer groups. So it may involve repeated behavior like hurting someone, embarrassing someone, or isolating someone using digital tools. So common forms of cyberbullying may be sending repeated mean or threatening messages, posting embarrassing or private images or videos, impersonating someone online to damage their reputation, or spreading rumors or lies digitally, or even excluding someone from group chats or forums. So how cyberbullying affects the mental health of adolescents is that because of the constant exposure of getting cyberbullied, it may lead to severe mental health issues like anxiety, depression. It can affect the self-esteem, the self-worth. It may also make the adolescents socially withdraw from people around them because there is a fear that even in real life they may be exposed to such kind of bullying. In severe situations, it can even lead to self-harm or even suicidal thoughts. So if we look at cyberbullying in India, it is seen that over the years cyberbullying has increased in India. So it's found that around 1 out of 3 adolescents have been targeted or experienced cyberbullying in their life. As I said now that there are several laws that help someone who may be experiencing this form of harassment or cyberbullying. Let us look at some of these that you should be knowing about. So cyberbullying is punishable under Indian law through the sections of the Information Technology Act 2000 and the Indian Penal Code. So relevant sections are section 66C, which punishes identity theft and unauthorized use of personal data. Then there is section 66E, which addresses the violation of privacy by capturing, publishing or transmitting images of a private area without consent. Then there is section 354D of IPC, which talks about online stalking. Then there is IPC section 507, which is criminal intimidation via anonymous communication. And there is section 66, which talks about publishing or transmitting obscene material online. So anytime someone is found engaging in such things, they can be punished as well. So what can you do if you feel that you are being cyberbullied? So as I said, avoiding contact with such people, blocking is another thing, taking screenshots, keeping proof of that, and reporting. So how do we report cyberbullying? So as I said, you can of course reach out to an adult in your family or someone you can trust, but India has provided certain platforms where you can complain such cyberbullying events. So let's look at where you can report in case of cyberbullying. So in India, we have the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. So you can go to the website cybercrime.gov.in and you can put up your complaint there with proofs. Then there is also an option of reporting anonymously, especially for women and children. Then we have the cybercrime helpline, that is 1930, and in case you are unable to do that, maybe you can also go to the local police station or also to the cybercrime unit of your nearby place. Now that we have discussed about, how digital technology of course has a positive effect but has negative effect, what kind of negative effects it's having, like digital fatigue, addiction, how negative exposures happen in the form of online harassment, cyberbullying, and we also looked at different theories. So now let us look at how can one protect themselves, how can they use digital technologies in a positive way, in a way that it uplifts their mental health, where they do not end up being, compulsively using such devices or getting addicted. So I am going to discuss two techniques, one is time management and one is digital detox. So when we are talking about time management, so time management is of course managing your time in a way that it is, allowing you to finish your goals that you have set for yourself. So when we are talking about time management, we can also look at task management. So there are different ways in which you can manage time. The first is of course keeping a track of all the tasks you have. Maybe you can, sit down and prioritize what you have. You can keep a notebook with you, or many people also tend to rely on digital technologies to manage the time better, but it's better to keep a hard copy of such things. So maybe you can sit down with a diary where you can prioritize your work, like what are the things that I have for the coming month, or what are the things I have for the coming week or for the day even. So sitting down maybe just before your sleep and maybe 15-20 minutes and planning your next day will do wonders. And this can also reduce unnecessary usage of digital technology, because you have planned your day, you will not get bored or end up using social media. And it's found that most of the times adolescents are using social media because they are bored, because they don't know what to do. There are many other techniques in which you can manage time. So one is the Pomodoro technique. So the Pomodoro technique says that you can divide your time into different slots of maybe 20 to 25 minutes each. So in every slot of 20 to 25 minutes, you will be focusing on your work without getting distracted or engaging in any side task. So while you are in that slot, after 25 minutes, you will take a 5-minute break and then start with another slot of 25 minutes. So maybe having a 4 slots of 25 minutes each and then taking a longer break. So when we are taking the 5-minute break, it is very important that you do not engage in devices. So many times people, what they do is they are focusing, and when they are taking a break, they will again focus on their phones. They look at maybe Instagram, Facebook, and see if what the comment they posted in the morning, whether it has received any likes or comments. So when we are taking the break, it is very important that you stay away from screen. Maybe you can do some stretching, maybe you can just have some water, splash some water on your face, maybe go for a short walk around, or maybe look at the nature around you. Another technique is the Eisenhower matrix. So it is also a time management tool. So the Eisenhower matrix, what it does is that it helps you manage time better by helping you to identify important work and urgent work. So if you feel the task is urgent and important, then you will do it immediately. If the task is important but not that urgent, maybe you can delay it. And if you feel that it is not at all important nor urgent, you can just not do it, or maybe delay it for a longer period. So the second way in which we deal with negative effects is the digital detox. So digital detox means that you are intentionally reducing the use of digital devices like phones, computers, or any tablets, etc. So the goal of digital detox is to mitigate the negative effects of these devices, and there are many ways in which we can practice digital detox, and I am here to discuss that with you now. So the first is setting time limits. So maybe when you are using your digital devices, you can keep a track of the time for how long you have been using the device. The next is using digital blockers. So we can use many digital apps that can block unnecessary notifications from coming that may lead to compulsive use. The next is creating tech-free zones. So maybe you can, have a space at your home. You can decide for yourself that, okay, in this place I will not be using the digital device, be it phone, computer or anything, or my laptop. The next is prioritizing off-screen activities. So it's important that adolescents engage in offline activities like going for walks, exercises. So this may also reduce the unintentional use of devices. The next is separating work and personal life by also separating the devices. Though it is not advised that you have many devices, but in case you have more than one device, maybe you can set for yourself that, okay, this device I will only use for work but not for entertainment. So what will happen is, suppose it's a work that you have to do online, you will not be distracted by other entertainment apps. The next is encouraging hobbies. So adolescents, as I said in the past, in the previous slides, that they are engaging in the phone for so long that they are not, or they are rather forgetting to engage in the hobbies that they liked. So it's important to separate themselves and engaging in hobbies, exploring new things, maybe join new classes where they'll be also meeting new people, building connections and also learning new hobbies away from digital technologies. The next is practicing mindful use. So being mindful of the use, how much time you are spending, also engaging in mindful activities. So indirectly that will help you to be more aware of your present moment. So anytime you are engaging in digital devices, you will be more aware of how much time is gone and whether your body is feeling negative effects of that. The next is curating your digital space. So maybe you can declutter all the apps that you do not need, and also to follow uplifting content. So when you are following some channels, maybe you can ignore the negative ones or the ones that you feel may have an effect on your mental health, where they are showing these idealized versions. So you can follow those that are more uplifting in content. The last is protecting mental and emotional health. So it's important that social media breaks are taken. Set a time for yourself that after this much I will take a break. So how we do is to take social media breaks in between your tasks, being more aware, being mindful and taking breaks. The next is seeking help in case you feel that these technologies are affecting your mental health or physical health in any way. Reaching out to professionals is very important. Now let's look at some of the positive effects of digital detox. So practicing digital detox techniques can reduce stress. So as you limit technology, it will also lower your anxiety and mental overload. It can lead to better sleep. As I said that screen blue light is emitted. As a result, the circadian rhythm and the sleep is getting affected. So digital breaks can improve sleep, and the quality of sleep is also improved because the blue light exposure is reduced. Then there is improved communication. So because you are avoiding digital screen and internet connections, so face to face connections are strengthened because of that. And there is enhanced focus, and when we are talking about enhanced focus, because we are distracting ourselves away from digital devices, so they will help us improve our concentration levels and focus on real world tasks. Then there is also the role of family and educational institutions. So when we are talking of family, maybe parents can educate their children about healthy digital use. They can also monitor the devices being used by adolescents, making sure that they are not invading their privacy. They can also help build or help the adolescents to connect with other peers, other society and other clubs and other activities they can help them engage in. Educational institutions also have a big role to play. Maybe they can have this provide education to adolescents in the schools about what is healthy use. They can also incorporate these things in the curriculum as well. They can also foster critical thinking and healthy use in online medium. Another very important thing is building resilience among adolescents so that they are not that affected or they are, taking it in a positive way. So to summarize today's lecture, uh, we looked at how adolescents' lives are deeply embedded in a technology, in digital technologies, and how it can have a positive effect on their lives. It will enhance their, exposure to information. It can also boost confidence, but also we looked at how it can have a negative impact on adolescents' lives. So, negative effects we discussed are digital fatigue, we looked at digital addiction, then we explored different theories that explained how these social media platforms are in a way reinforcing such compulsive behaviors of digital use and social media. We looked at how social media use can lead to negative mental health effects like anxiety, depression, how it can affect a person's self-esteem, their self-worth, and also how it can lead to severe consequences where a person may hurt themselves or may have suicidal thoughts. We looked at some of the management techniques in which person can, manage their time better to avoid unnecessary usage of social media. And we also looked at different ways in which you can practice digital detox. So ultimately our goal is to use digital technologies in a healthy way so that it also uplifts our physical and mental health. We also looked at the role of family and educational institutions in promoting such behaviors and also improving resilience. So with this, I come to the end of our lecture today. Thank you so much.